She watched him sleep. His face was peaceful in the moonlight, young and open and utterly trusting. He had given her everything, his heart, his future, his dreams. He had laid them at her feet like offerings, certain she would treasure them. She did not treasure them, she resented them. Not because he was unworthy, he was the most worthy man she had ever known. Not because she did not care for him, she cared for him deeply. Too deeply, perhaps, to be honest. She watched him sleep, and she hated herself for the smile she had given him at the ball, the one that had made him believe. Hated herself for the way she had let him hold her hand, just a moment too long. Hated herself for all the small, cruel kindnesses that had convinced him she loved him back. She did not love him. She wanted to, she had tried to. But the heart is not a servant, and it refuses to obey commands, no matter how desperately they are issued. He would wake up tomorrow, and she would have to tell him. She would have to watch his face crumble. She would have to become the woman who broke him, and the worst part, the part that would haunt her for the rest of her life, was that she had known this would happen. She had known from the beginning, and she had let it happen anyway. This is the story of a woman who made a man love her and hated herself for it. This is, I hate myself for making you love me. The season of 1815 was supposed to be simple. Lady Eleanor Ashworth had attended 4 seasons before this one. She had danced with countless gentlemen, accepted bouquets from a dozen admirers, and rejected 3 proposals, each one kind, each one worthy, each one impossible to accept, because her heart was a locked room, and she had lost the key somewhere in the wreckage of her childhood. She was 26 years old, too old by the standards of the ton to be unmarried, too plain by the standards of her mother to attract serious attention, too honest by the standards of everyone to pretend she felt things she did not feel. She had made peace with her solitude. She had built a quiet life in her family's country estate, reading, walking, tending to her mother's roses. She had told herself that love was a luxury she could not afford, and she had almost believed it. Then she met Henry. Henry Cavendish was not supposed to matter. He was the 3rd son of a baron. No title, no fortune, no prospects beyond the living he had purchased in a small country parish. He was kind and gentle and unfashionably earnest. He did not dance well. He did not flirt well. He did not know how to play the games that gentlemen played at balls and dinner parties and garden parties. He simply was. And Eleanor, who had spent her entire life surrounded by artifice and performance, found herself drawn to his honesty like a moth to flame. She did not intend to draw him in. She did not intend to make him love her. She simply enjoyed his company, enjoyed the way he listened when she spoke, really listened, as though her words mattered, enjoyed the way he looked at her. Not with the hungry assessment of fortune hunters, but with a quiet, steady attention that made her feel, for the first time in years, that she was not invisible. She let him call on her. She let him walk with her in the gardens. She let him hold her hand. Once, briefly, when they were standing by the lake and the sun was setting and the moment felt too beautiful to spoil with honesty. She told herself it was harmless. She told herself he knew she was not in love with him. She told herself she would tell him, eventually, when the time was right, when she had found the words. She told herself many things. She was lying. The first kiss happened on the terrace at Lady Westmore's ball. Eleanor had been standing alone, watching the dancers, feeling the particular loneliness that descends at these events. The sense of being surrounded by people and utterly invisible. Henry had found her there. He had asked if she was well. She had said she was tired. He had said he would stay with her. And then, somehow, impossibly, he had leaned down and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, tentative. The kiss of a man who had been thinking about this moment for weeks and still could not quite believe it was happening. Eleanor did not pull away. She did not pull away because she did not know how. Because his lips were warm and his hand was steady on her waist, and for one brief, terrible moment, she wanted to believe she loved him back. She did not. But she wanted to, and that wanting, that desperate, lonely wanting, was enough to keep her there, in his arms, under the stars, while he fell deeper and deeper into a love she could not return. When the kiss ended, he looked at her with eyes full of hope. "Eleanor," he said, "I have been wanting to do that for weeks." She should have told him then. The words were on her tongue. "Henry, I am not the woman you think I am. I do not love you. I cannot love you. I do not know how." But he was smiling. He was happy. He was looking at her as though she had hung the moon, and she could not bring herself to extinguish that light. "I should go inside," she said instead. "My mother will be looking for me." He nodded. He stepped back. He let her go. She walked away, and she felt his gaze on her back, warm and adoring. And she hated herself for not turning around and telling him the truth. The weeks that followed were a study in self-deception. Henry called on her every Tuesday and Thursday. He brought her flowers, not extravagant bouquets from expensive florists, but simple bunches of wildflowers he had picked himself, tied with twine, still damp with morning dew. He read poetry to her in the garden, Keats and Wordsworth, and the occasional sonnet he had written himself, which were not good, but were so earnestly crafted that Eleanor's heart ached reading them. She let him, because saying no would have meant explaining why. And explaining why would have meant admitting the truth, that she had never loved anyone, that she was not certain she was capable of love. Something inside her had broken long ago, and she did not know how to fix it. She enjoyed his attention. That was the shameful part. She enjoyed being wanted. She enjoyed the way he looked at her, the way he spoke her name, the way he made her feel like the most important person in the world. She had never felt important before. It was addictive. It was cruel, and she could not stop. "Do you love me?" The question came on a Tuesday afternoon in the garden, under the oak tree where they always sat. Henry was holding her hand. His thumb traced small circles on her palm. Eleanor looked at him. His face was open, hopeful, trusting. She had two choices. She could tell him the truth. "No, Henry, I do not love you. I care for you. I value you. But I do not love you, and I do not think I ever will." Or she could lie. She could say, "Of course, I love you," and watch his face light up, and continue this charade for weeks or months or years, until the weight of her dishonesty crushed them both. She chose neither. "I care for you deeply," she said. "You are the kindest man I have ever known." He smiled. He interpreted her words as love, because that was what he wanted to hear. She did not correct him. She hated herself for her cowardice. That night, she sat alone in her chamber and tried to understand herself. Why could she not love him? He was everything she should have wanted. Kind, gentle, faithful. He would never hurt her, never betray her, never abandon her the way her father had abandoned her mother, leaving behind nothing but debts and silence, and a grief that had never fully healed. She should love him. She wanted to love him. But the heart is not a servant. It does not obey commands. It does not respond to logic or gratitude, or the desperate pleas of a woman who is tired, being alone. Her heart was a locked room. Henry had the key, but the door would not open. The end came on a Sunday. They were walking by the lake, the same lake where he had first held her hand months ago, in what felt like another life. The autumn leaves were falling, red and gold, drifting across the surface of the water like small dying flames. Henry was talking about the future. He had been offered a living in a neighbouring parish, a promotion of sorts, with a larger house and a better income. He wanted to know if Eleanor would be happy there. If she would be happy. "Eleanor," he said, taking both her hands in his, "I know I am not a wealthy man. I know I cannot offer you the luxuries you deserve. But I can offer you my heart, my devotion, my life, if you will have me." He knelt. He pulled a small box from his pocket. He opened it. The ring was simple, a single sapphire, modest but beautiful, the kind of ring a man buys when he has saved for months and spent every penny he had. "Eleanor Ashworth," he said, "will you marry me?" Eleanor looked down at him. She looked at the ring. She looked at his face, hopeful, vulnerable, utterly certain that she would say yes, and she felt something crack open inside her. Not love, not joy, guilt, overwhelming, suffocating, devastating guilt. She had done this. She had made this man believe she loved him. She had smiled when she should have been honest. She had let him hold her hand. She had let him kiss her. She had let him fall in love with a woman who did not exist. A woman who was kind and warm, capable of loving him back. That woman was not her. That woman had never been her. "Henry," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes?" "Cannot." The silence that followed was the worst thing Eleanor had ever experienced. Henry did not move. He remained on one knee, the ring box still open, the sapphire catching the autumn light. His face had not yet processed her words. He was still expecting her to say something else, to laugh, to tell him she was joking. He was still hoping. "Eleanor," he said slowly, "what do you mean you cannot?" She pulled her hands from his. She stepped back. "I cannot marry you," she said. I cannot love you." "Henry, not the way you deserve." His face crumbled. She watched it happen. The hope dying, the joy fading, the slow, terrible understanding that everything he had believed was false. "But you." He stood up. The ring box slipped from his fingers. It landed in the grass, the sapphire winking up at them both. "You let me hold your hand. You let me kiss you. You said you cared for me." "I do care for you," Eleanor said. "I care for you deeply, but caring is not loving. And you deserve someone who loves you, someone who can give you everything you deserve. I want you," he said. His voice was breaking. "I do not care about deserving. I want you. You deserve someone who wants you back." He stared at her. His eyes were wet. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you let me believe? Why did you let me fall in love with you if you knew, if you always knew, that you could not love me back?" Eleanor had no answer. She had no answer because the truth was too ugly to speak aloud. "Because I was lonely. Because I enjoyed being wanted. Because I am selfish and broken, and I did not want to be alone." She said none of this. She simply stood there, silent, while Henry gathered the pieces of his shattered heart and walked away. The days that followed were grey and cold. Eleanor did not leave the house. She could not face the world, could not face the whispers, the pity, the inevitable gossip that would follow Henry's departure. She had heard that he had left London, that he had accepted the living in the neighbouring parish. The one he had been so excited about, the one he had wanted to share with her. He had gone alone. Of course he had gone alone. She had made sure of that. She sat by her window and watched the autumn leaves fall, and she thought about all the things she should have done differently. She should have been honest from the beginning. She should have told him, that first day in the garden, that she was not capable of love. She should have pushed him away when he reached for her hand. She had done none of those things. She had been selfish, lonely, desperate for the warmth of another person's attention. And now a good man was suffering because of her. Her mother found her on the third day. Lady Ashworth was a practical woman, sharp, unsentimental, the kind of mother who believed that feelings were inconveniences to be managed rather than experienced. "You have been hiding," her mother said. "I have been thinking," Eleanor said. "A dangerous pastime. What have you concluded?" Eleanor looked at her mother. She looked at the woman who had taught her that love was a weakness, that emotion was a liability. The only safe way to live was to keep your heart locked away where no one could reach it. "I have concluded that I do not know how to love," Eleanor said, "and I do not know why." Her mother was silent for a moment. "Your father," she said finally, "was not a kind man. You know this. You saw what he did to me, to our family. You saw what it looked like when love was a weapon. Yes, you decided, very young, that you would never be vulnerable to that kind of pain. You decided that the only way to survive was to feel nothing. And you have been very successful, Eleanor. You feel nothing. You have made yourself into a fortress." Eleanor looked at her hands. "But fortresses are lonely places," her mother continued. "And people who live in them forget that there is a world outside. A world with gardens and lakes and men who pick wildflowers and write bad poetry. You knew about Henry?" Everyone knew about Henry. Her mother's voice softened, just slightly. "He was a good man. You should have been honest with him. I know. Do you also know that it is not too late?" Eleanor looked up. "What do you mean?" Her mother shrugged. "He has not left the country. He has not married someone else. He is in a parish, not 3 hours from here, nursing his broken heart and waiting for something he cannot name. Mother, I am not telling you to marry him. I am telling you that honesty, even late honesty, is better than silence. You owe him an explanation, not because he will forgive you, not because it will fix anything, because you owe it to yourself to stop hiding." Eleanor travelled to the parish on a grey November morning. The church was small and humble, built of local stone, surrounded by bare trees and a graveyard that had been there for centuries. She found Henry in the rectory garden, pruning roses that had already lost their leaves. He looked up when she entered. His face was tired, thinner than she remembered. The kindness was still there, in the set of his mouth, the steadiness of his gaze. But something else was there too. A wariness, a caution, scar tissue of a wound that had not fully healed. "Eleanor," he said. "Henry." They stood in silence. The wind blew. The bare roses rustled. "I should not have come," she said. "No," he said. "You should not have. I came because I owe you an explanation." He set down his pruning shears. He wiped his hands on his trousers. He looked at her. Really looked the way he used to look at her, before everything. "I do not want an explanation," he said. "I wanted you to love me. You did not. That is explanation enough." "It is not," Eleanor said. "It is not enough. Because I wanted to love you. I tried to love you, and I could not." He was silent. "I am broken, Henry," she said. The words came out raw and honest, stripped of the artifice she had hidden behind for so long. "Something inside me broke when I was young, and I do not know how to fix it. I do not know how to love. I do not know how to let myself be loved. I have spent my entire life building walls, and I built them so high and so thick that I forgot there was a world outside." She stepped closer. "You were the first person who made me want to climb over those walls. You were the first person who made me want to try. And I did try, Henry. I tried so hard, but trying is not the same as succeeding." "Then why did you let me believe?" he asked. His voice was quiet, but there was pain beneath it. Old pain, familiar pain, the pain of someone who had been fooled. "Why did you let me fall in love with you if you knew you could not catch me?" Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. "Because I was selfish," she said. "Because I was lonely. Because you looked at me the way no one had ever looked at me, and I wanted to live inside that look forever. I wanted to be the woman you saw when you looked at me. I wanted to believe I could become her. And now? Now I know I cannot. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. But I am trying to be honest. I am trying to stop hiding." Henry was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to her. He stopped in front of her. He did not touch her, not her hands, not her face. He simply stood there, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, and he looked at her with the same steady, gentle attention he had always given her. "Thank you," he said, "for telling me the truth." Eleanor nodded. "I cannot promise I will ever be able to love you," she said. "I cannot promise I will ever be able to love anyone. But I can promise that I will not lie to you again. I can promise that I will not hide from you. I can promise that I will try, really try, to climb over these walls." Henry looked at her. His expression was unreadable. "That is more than you gave me before," he said. "It is all I have." He was silent for a moment. The wind blew. The roses rustled. "I cannot wait forever," he said finally. "I cannot put my life on hold for someone who may never love me back. But I can give you time. I can give you space. I can give you the honesty you have finally given me." He stepped back. "I will be here," he said, "in this parish, in this garden, pruning these roses. If you ever decide you are ready, truly ready, to let someone love you, you know where to find me." He turned. He walked back to his roses. Eleanor stood in the garden, watching him go. She did not follow him. She had done enough damage for one day. But as she walked back to her carriage, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate, clinging hope of someone who needed to be saved. The quiet, steady hope of someone who had finally stopped running. She did not know if she would ever love Henry Cavendish. But for the first time in her life, she was willing to try. The roses were blooming when Eleanor returned to the parish. Red and pink and white, climbing the walls of the rectory, spilling over the stone path, filling the air with a sweetness that made her chest ache. Henry was in the garden as he had promised. He looked up when she entered. His hair was greyer than she remembered. His face was lined, but his eyes, his steady, gentle eyes, were the same. "Eleanor," he said. "Henry." She walked to him. She stopped in front of him. She did not kneel. She did not pull out a ring. She simply stood there, in the sunlight, and told him the truth. "I do not know if I love you," she said. "I do not know if I am capable of love. But I know that I have spent the last year trying to climb over my walls. I know that I have missed you every single day. I know that you are the first thing I think about when I wake and the last thing I think about before I sleep." She paused. "I do not know if that is love, but it is something, and I wanted you to know." Henry looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not the bright, hopeful smile of the man who had knelt before her by the lake. It was something quieter, something wiser, something that had been tested by pain and had not broken. "It is enough," he said. "For now, it is enough." He held out his hand. She took it. They stood together in the garden, among the roses, surrounded by sunlight and silence, and the particular sweetness of two people who had finally stopped running. She did not know if she would ever love him, but she was willing to try. For two people who had been hurt by love, one who had loved too much, one who had loved too little, trying was enough. Dear listener, this is the story of a woman who made a man love her and hated herself for it. Eleanor was not cruel. She was not malicious. She was simply broken by a childhood that taught her that love was a weapon. That vulnerability was weakness, that the only safe way to live was behind walls so high and so thick that no one could ever reach her. But walls are also prisons. And Eleanor had been a prisoner for a very long time. Henry was the first person who made her want to escape. He was kind and gentle and unfashionably earnest. He loved her without conditions, without demands, without the cruel calculus that had poisoned every other relationship in her life. And she could not love him back. Not because he was unworthy, because she did not know how. This story does not have a tidy ending. Eleanor does not suddenly discover love in the final pages. Henry does not forgive her completely. They are two wounded people standing in a garden, holding hands, trying to figure out what comes next. That is not a fairy tale. But it is honest. And honesty, Eleanor learned, is the only foundation on which anything real can be built. May you have the courage to be honest, with others and with yourself. May you have the patience to wait for the love that is worth waiting for. And may you remember that trying is not the same as succeeding, but it is the only path to success. With all our gratitude for listening, good night.